Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I am here today with Kathy Kleiner. January 15th was the 47th anniversary of Kathy Kleiner's attack by the notorious serial killer Ted Bundy. She has written a book called A Light in the Dark. This is the first book by a confirmed survivor of Ted Bundy and the only memoir to challenge the popular narrative of Bundy as a handsome killer who charmed his victims into trusting him. Kathy Kleiner survived serial killer Ted Bundy. He had escaped from a Colorado jail and made his way to Florida State University on a cold January night. He saw the door to the Omega sorority house had a busted lock. He killed two women while they slept and then attacked Kathy Kleiner, Rubin, and her roommate. She survived because a car headlight flashed in their room and spooked Bundy. Kathy Kleiner knows what it's like to endure trauma. In 1978, she survived serial killer Ted Bundy. In the decades that followed, Kleiner Rubin accepted the traumatic night would always be part of her life story. She also learned that while some people were helpful with their support, others were harmful. Like, basically, you guys, she has advice for what people should and shouldn't say to trauma survivors. Don't shame the victim and don't glorify the killer. So this was quite an interview. We talked about the fact that Ted Bundy became a legend, but the survivor and the victims that have died, their voices were muted and ignored, and that now it's time that we're heard, and it's time that all victims are heard. And so we shine a light today on the lives of the ones that lost their life senselessly. And we talk about trauma and how to get through it and the tools that Kathy used. She just went towards the sunshine and went towards the light because the darkness could really pull you under. I hope you enjoy this interview with Kathy Kleiner. Without further ado, we're going to dive in. I am so excited to welcome Kathy Kleiner to the Sisterhood of Sweat today. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
And today, you guys, we're going to talk about a topic that you know is near and dear to my heart. With the name of my place is Sisterhood of Sweat, and SWEAT stands for Strong Women Empowering, Achieving Together. And I am all about surviving as a survivor of domestic violence, trauma, sexual assault, many things. So we are going to dive in today to the story of you being saved by the light, and you are a survivor of a traumatic serial killer killing everybody, Ted Bundy. I mean, he's famous. People know who he is. Tell us in your own words what happened to you and the whole attack. Just tell the whole story because a lot of people don't know about it now.
Yes, the attack was something that has traumatized me, and I've worked through it. But the night of January 15th, which tomorrow is the anniversary of the attack, I was in my dorm room studying for a test for calculus, and I figured I should actually open the book and see what the test might be about. So I was in my room studying, and my roommate was also in the room. Around 11:30, we turned off the lights and went to bed. I didn't know, but at this time there was someone that was lurking outside. he went up and picked up a piece of firewood that we had in the lots behind the door. And then the back door was locked that night. He actually entered the sorority house in the dark and went up the front stairway to the rooms upstairs. He went down the hall to our bedrooms. He opened the first door and he attacked Margaret Bowman. He strangled her and hit her with that log. He then closed the door and walked across the hall, opened the door, and it was Lisa Levy's room. He went and attacked her again with that log and left her for dead. He walked back across the hall to my room. My room was about the size of a dormitory, and it mirrored on each wall. We had a dresser, a desk, and next to that was the footboard of our twin beds. And between the beds, we had a small footlocker that we kept things on top of, um, just to decorate the room a little bit. So I heard the door swish on the carpet and I started to wake up, but not enough to open my eyes. And this person walked into my room and it was pitch black. And he tripped over that footlocker, which now woke me up enough to open my eyes and look. And I saw this dark figure next to my bed. And he raised his hand up over my bed above his face with the log in his face, in his hands. And he slammed it down so hard on me that it broke my jaw in 3 places. He smashed my face and he actually left wounds on my shoulder. It hit so hard.
Oh my
At
gosh.
this point, my roommate has begun to wake up and stir. So Bundy, which we knew that was Ted Bundy, but we didn't know it then, he tripped over that footlocker again and went and attacked my roommate and hit her with the same club that he hit all of us with. I was whimpering and making noise and trying to wake up. And this person, Ted Bundy, did not leave survivors. So he came back to my side of the room, and I had made myself into the smallest little ball I could because I thought if he didn't see me, he wouldn't kill me. He walked over, was standing next to my bed. Again, he raised his arm up over his head with that piece of firewood in his hand. And just then, there was a beautiful light that shone up into our room. It was very bright, and it lit up the whole room. Our back window curtains were open because we hung the plants on them. So the whole room lit up. And I could see this person, and he was antsy. He was kind of just moving back and forth. And then I think he thought I really saw him, and whomever had that light shining in must have seen him. So he ran out of our room, down the stairs, and out of the sorority house. Meanwhile, up in our room, my roommate and I are hurt really bad. It felt like pins and knives and needles in my face. It was so agonizing and painful, but we lived.
Oh my gosh. Did you know any of the girls then that were killed?
Yes, I was in the sorority Chi Omega, and they were my sorority sisters, and both of them were older than I. I was 21 and I was a sophomore, but they were so nice and so sweet and helpful. If I had questions about pledge songs or anything, I felt comfortable to go to both of them. So yes, they were my sorority sisters.
So not only are you've survived an attack, but you're losing friends at the same time.
Yes.
And that's trauma all wrapped up into one. And with that, did you feel any survivor's guilt? Sometimes we do.
No, I didn't have any survivor's guilt. I was concentrating on getting better. I had gone to Miami after the attack and left Florida State. And the network they had with them as a group was very helpful for them to survive and to move forward. I myself in Miami was in my family circle, which was pretty small. I was dealing with recuperating from my injuries and my mental state. So I was there, and they didn't have therapy back in 1978. So I went through, and through everything, I felt there was a black blob behind me, and it was going to encompass me. It was like a cape, and it was coming for me. And out in the distance, I saw a little island in the ocean far away. And I took baby steps because I wanted to reach that island. And it took me a long time to take my baby steps. And I looked behind me, and that black blob were baby steps behind me. So I moved forward to the baby steps until I reached my island. It had one sand chair on it, which I sit down and put my toes in the sand. And I looked up, and all I saw was sunshine. There was no black blob that was going to come and take me. So I walked my way from him.
Yeah, I mean, I love the story about the light coming in.
Yes.
Um, that must have spooked him, and he must have thought he was going to either get caught or be seen. And PTSD, I mean, so did you experience that at all? Like where you felt fear, or how long did it take you to move on from this experience?
My mouth was wired shut for 9 weeks, and I could only eat and drink what came through a straw. But I did feel apprehension about men I didn't know. I wasn't scared. I was just kind of uncomfortable about men. So when my jaw was unlocked and my mouth was open, I went and got a job at a lumber yard. And I thought I would see the most men I could see in the shortest amount of time. And my mom was like, no, or she really thought it was a bad idea. I did it anyway. And I didn't have to work there long until I decided that all men weren't going to hurt me. And there's a lot of men that come through the register at a lumber yard. And I learned one thing, there's a lot of cute construction workers out there. I worked there a couple of weeks, and then I moved on, and that wasn't going to be an issue for me anymore.
That's awesome. I love how you pulled yourself up by the bootstraps
Yes.
and you got through it. Uh, so tell us, dispel some of the myths about Ted Bundy, because all I've ever heard was that he was a charmer, good looking, intelligent, working his way into women's hearts and beds. But you have a different story to tell.
Yes. Ted Bundy was not spectacular. He wasn't all that handsome. He wasn't intelligent. He went to high school, and then he went to college in a small college out west, and he took him 8 years to get his master's degree. Then he went to grad school for law, and he failed and failed out of the program. He then went to another college out west, and again he failed out of the class, and he admitted he couldn't handle it. It was too much for him. He wasn't charming women. He stalked women. He went behind them and attacked them, or else he would go into their bedrooms at night and attack them then. He didn't face anything forward. He just did it from behind. So he wasn't a charmer. He didn't invite anyone to join him, and they went willingly, except for two hitchhikers. And at that time, in 1974 and 75, it was normal for people to hitchhike, especially out west, because there were a lot of college students, and so it was common. And he did attack and kill a couple of his passengers when he picked them up, and he left them for dead in the woods. And it said there's about 36 women that he killed, and I name each one in my book, and I tell a little about each girl. In a regular book or a Bundy book, you read it, and there's one chapter with all of our names with a comma, and then the next girl in a comma. And that has hurt me so many years that I wanted to bring a life and a light to each woman. And I wanted it to be special and good for them.
because they had their light snuffed out, so to speak, and the focus has mostly been on this fascination with a serial killer versus the victims that are no more. So I love that you are shining a light on the victims. A lot of times the victim is blamed. Speak to that a little bit.
You're right. A lot of times, even though they may not have done this, people think that the victims were wearing clothes that were provocative or charming him, kind of talking to him first. And that was so not the case. These women were stalked and attacked from behind. And the couple of women he did approach in alleys and stuff, asking for help with books, they did not want to, but he charmed them and attacked them with a tire iron. And that's when he drug them into his car, attacked them, and left them for dead again in the woods.
Didn't he escape out of prison and that was where he came from when he came to your like dorm?
Yes, out in Colorado, he escaped from prison. He had um, gone out I mean, a, a light fixture in the ceiling. He had lost so much weight he could crawl out. He left that prison and ran. And in the book, I told the story of where he went and each episode and each step he took to leave that state and how he went all the way across the state to Tallahassee to FSU.
I mean, they said, I mean, I heard this, so I don't know if this is a rumor, but they said he was in the woods, um, and they lost 25 pounds during that time.
I'm not sure exact weight, but I know
Okay.
it was a lot because he had to shimmy through the
Wow.
element
That's
on top of the
just
roof.
beyond. So here you are, you survived all of this. What would you like trauma victims to know so that they too can move forward? Some of the steps that you took that you think anyone can take when they have been a victim of some type of abuse, a crime, a trauma.
I overcome my problems because I face them head on. One night I was a victim. The next day I wanted to be the survivor. And I did. I lived my life open. I didn't close myself off or feel sorry for myself. I opened the windows, brought light into my life, and wanted it to be something positive. And I think everyone has a strength inside of them. And if they pull it out from deep down, that's their strength. Now, no one can take that away from them. And they have to learn how to use it to go baby steps into the light that can help them. And they have to be good to themselves. Whatever happened to them, it wasn't their fault. And they have to move on and to know that they have a support group or they have people to talk to and use it. Just walk away from it, let it go. It's hard. It's really, really hard. But like I said, take my baby steps. And sometimes you just need to open the window or go get your nails done or clean the house and just normal things. And don't stay in a corner because that corner will get darker and darker and it'll encompass you in your life.
Well, that was really a good answer. And I like how you use the analogy of light.
Yes.
And you can get stuck in that darkness, it can pull you down, but like you said, open the window and let the light shine through. And when you told your story of the people, the hitchhikers or whatever, I remember being 13 or something around there when hitchhiking was the thing. And I had a friend that was always getting me into trouble because she, I just lived vicariously through her, I guess.
Yeah.
And she I think she was supposed to spend the night, or I think she was going to spend the night with me, and I told my mom I was spend the night with her, kind of thing.
Yeah.
We're out, we go to this bowling alley, and she said, let's hitchhike back. And I'd never hitchhiked.
Uh-huh.
And it was a scary ride. let me tell you. I think we had more than one car. We got in this car with this guy, and he had been drinking, you can just tell.
Yeah.
And I remember his eyes were glazed, and he said, "You guys," something like, "you're crazier than hell to get in the car with me." And I was feeling a little bit scared. And I don't know, but we safely made it back, and I never ever hitchhiked again.
Well, you learned a lesson. Can you imagine hitchhiking now with everybody in such a state of mind that they'll do anything for to anyone, and it seems like no one has a moral value anymore, and that's really scary.
Oh my gosh, so much. So did Ted Bundy? I was just curious because I always think abusers have been abused, but what was his childhood like and his parents?
He was always told that his mother was his sister. The family wanted to hide the fact that his mother got pregnant. So they sent her away, and when she got back, the baby thought that his sister was his mother. He grew up knowing that for a number of years until they finally told him that it was the other way, that his mother was actually not his sister. And as he grew up, I'm sure that traumatized him. But even from a young age, he would stalk in the woods and he would scare girls when they were there. He was a peeping Tom. One night, he took knives and put them in his mother's bed while she slept and had the blades, the tips facing her. And he did that around her bed. So she woke up and she had all these knives pointing at her. And it's these things that early on we could tell that he was severely unhealthy and that he just went through his life and things got worse and worse for him. He would set animals on fire. He just did the typical things you think of that a serial killer would do when they're young. And I think each step progressed him into the next side of him. And pornography, he says, was a big part of his life back then. And reading books on attack victims and how to attack a victim. So all this in his childhood, I think, led up to him exploding to be what he really was.
Well, wow, you can see it early on and see the signs. And I really related to your story, and everybody, A Light in the Dark. This book is great. I was reading it, and we all have to go out and get a copy and support the victims, and stop blaming them and stop glorifying the serial killers, right? Thank you
Yes.
so much for coming on the show today, and I wish you great success with your book.
Thank you very much for letting me talk to you.